Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our monthly awareness talk. Okay, so before I start, let me introduce a bit about Mind Story. Okay, so in Mind Story, we provide services for children that have academic delays, sensory delays, developmental delays, behavioral and emotional difficulties, as well as physical delays. Okay, our team has professional from different background. The academic support, which is special needs teacher, special education teacher, behavior therapist, clinical psychologist, counselor, occupational therapy, reading therapy, and physiotherapy. You can contact us at our mobile number, WhatsApp us if you have any inquiries. You can email us at admin@mindstory.com.my. Our operating hours is Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday and Sunday via appointment only, and we are closed during the public holiday. Okay, you can check us out at our Facebook page at mindstory.my, our website mindstory.com.my, Instagram mindstory.my, and our LinkedIn Mindstory, Pusat Latihan Kanak-kanak Berkeperluan Khas. Okay, so today we have a talk about a special education teacher. So a lot of recently, I came across a lot of parents who are curious about, how different is a teacher and a special education teacher. So today we have our in-house special education teacher, Teacher Alisa, to share a bit about her experience as a special education teacher.
Hi. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alisa. I am 20 years old this year, and I'm currently undergoing my diploma in special education, and I will be finishing around this year. I am a full-time special needs teacher in Mind Story. A little history about how I came about this field would be that after I finished my SPM, I knew that I wanted to do something related to helping people, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I knew that I had passion and love for kids, but I didn't really know what I wanted to go into. So, because personally, why I enjoy being around kids is because they bring me joy. Kids in general, I would say that they are the purest thing ever because their genuineness is something that is very beautiful to me. So one Christmas, what happened was that I was at my cousin's house and my auntie was there. So I was playing with my cousin that is also a child with special needs. And what happened was my auntie suggested that why not you go into special education? And I honestly didn't know what special education was all about. All I knew is okay, children with special needs are special needs children basically. But I never really know that there's like a course for it or there's something that I can study and major in the future. I never really knew that until my auntie brought it up and I thought it was something that I was actually really interested in. I found myself being more curious to know how to go about it because when I left SPM, I really didn't know what I wanted to do other than help people basically. So that made me look for a college that actually provides this course, and that's how I started looking for a job. And surprisingly, the college actually told me that I can actually go into this field because there are different jobs that our college will recommend us to go into. So what I did was I tried to get a job in this field, and I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to join the center. So my first experience in this field, I would say, with all honesty, I was completely blinded. But I didn't really know what I was going into. I knew that my purpose was because I wanted to help the kids. I knew that I love the kids. I didn't really know how. I didn't know what experience I had or any knowledge. I really didn't have any of that because I went into the field around the same time that I started my diploma. So it was very new to me. I started off as a trainee teacher, which actually opened the doors for me to know more about so many different things, so many different fields related to special needs. I learned a lot about behavior therapy. I was given a chance to learn about occupational therapy. I was exposed to speech, reading, and physiotherapy, and now academic support. So many different fields that actually ultimately work hand in hand to help the kids that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I juggled between my diploma as well as my work, which really helped me gradually I have a better understanding, especially with my course and my work experience. So my course ultimately helped me understand what I can do better at work, whereas my work gave me that opportunity to understand better. So when I used to go for classes and stuff like that, I really got stuck from time to time, not knowing what terms they were using or what is it for. But as time went by, I started hearing it more often at my workplace. I started hearing all these terms. And when I went to college, it was much more easier for me to understand, which it's the same thing. Like when I came to work, it helped me understand what I was doing better, even though it was still very new to me. But it did help me in a way where I kind of knew a little bit more of what I was doing instead of completely coming into a field where I didn't know how I can assist or help a child. So um, yeah, so my point of view about all of this, I would say when I came into the special
Teacher,
education.
sorry, a question.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're looking for uh, a school for special education. So while you're searching for special education course to be a teacher,
Hmm?
after joining it, can you share a bit like, because some of the parents are curious as well, like you know, how is it different from a teacher, like the course, like like in basic education course, you have early childhood intervention or early childhood diploma and whatnot. So how is it? Can you briefly share? Because you did share about going around and looking for special education. So
Yeah.
in general, how is it different from any other diploma of education?
Okay, so thank you for that, Shali. I actually had the opportunity. I was given the choice of taking early education first or diploma in special education, but I personally chose diploma in special education. I think the difference now, I would say, is that when you're dealing with a typical child as a regular teacher, it's easier in a sense where they can take instructions, they are able to follow instructions easier, and it's easier to conduct the lesson. So just say now if I'm in a regular school where I'm teaching children that are typical, I will go in with a lesson plan and I will be able to execute the plan. But when it comes to special needs, something that I realized along the way is that not everything is going to go as planned, and I'm not going to be able to carry out most of my lessons due to sometimes it's not the child's day. They're going to be having a bad day. They come in, they don't feel as good as they did yesterday. So they might not be able to perform the same way they did yesterday. So when you say what is the difference, I would say that when it comes to special needs, in general, we have to be more patient in the sense where we have to be open in not being so rigid, I would say, because I had that mindset where I wanted everything. I thought that, okay, this is my plan, this is my lesson plan. I'm supposed to execute everything accordingly. And I used to get very panicked about not being able to complete something. But because of the feedback that I got from like my colleagues, my boss, I realized that sometimes it's okay if you don't get to do this one activity. It's okay if you put it on hold and then try it again the next time.
Okay.
Because it's not everything that you don't have to achieve everything in one go. Whereas when it comes to a typical child, I think in a way it's easier to conduct what you plan because they are able to follow instructions, they are able to sit down. They wouldn't require time to go out of the class and go for walks.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it does. Just in a way, from my point of view, not as a teacher, as a counselor, initially I don't see the difference as well because from me it's like, okay, teacher is teacher. How is special education teacher from is different from different, I mean, any other teacher. So from your experience sharing about your interest in children and also slowly develop into a career. Okay, this is something that it's quite interesting because for me, when I first started to study about human brain and psychology, I'm not as precise as you, where you immediately grasp like, okay, why not I try special education teacher? So which is something that it's quite interesting. And then secondly, yes, I like to share that without you sharing, I would have not known that handling special needs teacher will be different. Okay, for example, you share that you know you cannot be rigid, you have to be flexible because and also other things like the children is not able to follow instructions and so on. Okay, and also you shared about what you have studied in the college is, I assume it will be different as well. The exposure, okay, the content. One more thing you talk about is lesson planning. So I believe without you sharing, I would have not known that lesson planning would be different because I'm not from the education background. But thanks for sharing. So people that joined us today for this talk, they will have a clear understanding in terms of what a special education teacher do, what's their background, because um, nowadays, a lot of people or teachers claim to be a special education teacher, but if you look at the where they graduate or what degree or diploma they own, they are not very specific. It's like diploma in special education. Okay, so and then from there, it makes sense in a way because for me, like I said, then I believe some of the parents also have difficulty understanding because there's so many, everyone is calling themselves teachers. So it's good that you share this out and then get your point of view because I personally don't deal with a group of students, so I wouldn't know how is it like. Okay, so your background is in diploma in special education. Okay,
Yes.
so I believe, and also you share that whatever you learn in college is very focused very much on special education.
Mhm.
Okay, so meaning that this type of education is catered for those who require special attention.
Mhm.
So that's why it's called a special education. That's why you are called, the special education program. Okay, and then you also shared about your experience. Okay, where creating lesson plan for the children, and then we'll talk about being rigid, not flexible. Can you share a bit more about your role in Mind Story as a teacher? You started off as a trainee teacher, and then now you become a special education teacher. So can you share a bit about your role working as a special needs teacher or special education teacher?
Okay. So when I was given the opportunity to become teacher instead of a trainee teacher. So something that I realized is different, and like my role, I would say, is very much more different than how I was as a trainee teacher, only because there's two different types of point of view that I see when I was given the opportunity. So like the first one is I used to want to be the teacher that a child can go to play, to make them laugh, to just I don't know, I just enjoyed being able to do that with them, swing them around and to carry them and all of this. But when I was given the chance to start coming into class more often, I realized that it's very much more different because then they are going to have to take instructions from the person that used to play with them. So that was something that I used to have to like juggle and understand better. I needed to start setting more boundaries with the kids, which is something that I'm still learning because it's quite difficult, I would say, because I used to always be the person that they can, oh, come and play, and then ask me to like turn them around and stuff like that. And then now I'm going into the class and I'm having to tell them, okay, stop. This is not an acceptable behavior and stuff like that. So this kind of things is something that I find wasn't as easy at the start, especially because I didn't really know whether what I was doing was right. Like, I didn't understand the importance of boundaries yet with the kids, because to me, I wanted to make them happy. But that's something that I learned along the way, that I can also make them happy, but also helping them benefit from me instead of just me playing with them. And it's like, how's that word called? Uh, Aimlessly, without gaining anything from me. They're just playing, having fun, and then going back with nothing, basically. So that's something that I realized along the way that I didn't really want. So, okay. The whole other side of it, I would say that I learned that what I was told by my colleagues and my boss was that every opportunity is a learning opportunity. So I remember that this one time when I was still a trainee teacher, and I went in class very much more lesser than how I go in class now. So what happened was I used to be there when there's an inquiry, and I will be handling the child, I will be playing with the child and all of that. So there's this one moment where I remember until today, when there was this girl and she came in and she was playing near the food area. So it was a very small area, and what happened was she was bouncing on the yoga ball, which instantly made me panic a little because I felt like she was going to fall off the yoga ball. And I remember this exact moment when my boss looked at me and she was like, "Stop, let her play, because if she falls, she will know not to do it again." So all of these kind of things is things that I would say that I started doing it lesser, but it's the type of things I'm still working on, because I would automatically just find a need to go and help them when they don't even require help. So that's one of the things that I experience, basically. Like, when you say what is my role, I would say it's completely a bit more different from how I was as a trainee teacher to now, because the responsibility, I feel like, is much more bigger.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's very good. And then also you mentioned that, I mean, yeah, I can relate to that when you mentioned about don't know what to say and what to do, because when I initially working as a psychologist before I became a counselor, I too not sure like what to do, and quite confused, because whatever we learn in university or college, it's very different from from the real life setting. Okay, so and then from that, yeah, you get to learn how to deal with different. Okay, so one of the things that I hear from you say that when you handle the child, it will be slightly different from others. Okay, and then you also mentioned that your role is getting bigger. So when you say getting bigger, as in like teaching, not only teaching, am I correct? So you also have to handle the children's well-being in the classroom. Okay, so definitely your role, you have like more example to share with us, but let's go through one by one because I find it quite interesting. The first thing when you share, like we talked about it just now, but now we go dive a bit deeper. Okay, you talk about just now you also share an example about automatically you feel like helping the kids even though they didn't ask for help. Okay, so now we want to like I would like to go in deeper to explore more as in the role, because to me sometimes from the outside when I hear about teacher, I also thought teacher's role is about teaching only. Okay, but after hearing from your experience, you give an example, uh, it sort of like opened my eyes in a way that, oh, okay, so teachers do more than teaching, not only teaching. Okay, not only like go into the class and you just give you all the material and that's it, call it a day. So from your experience, it will be an eye opener for everyone, especially special education. Okay, because I myself also not very sure what a special education teacher do. I mean, in general, I know, but like to be specific, how you run the class, okay, how you carry out the lesson plan. So these are the things that I would like to know more, because you mentioned quite a few times that I cannot be rigid. I want to carry out the lesson plan, but the kids doesn't listen to the instructions, so I have to change and things like that. Okay, so let's go through one by one. because I think it's part of your role, right, to prepare lesson plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with lesson plan, because you mentioned that you cannot be rigid. So can you briefly share or clarify more, like what does it mean by being rigid and lesson plan?
Okay, so just say if I had a whole class plan to do an activity of painting emotions, and suddenly one of the child is unable to focus and sit down and understand the instructions, or they are unable to regulate their emotions and they cannot be in the class, or they need to go out and stuff like that. So I need to take into consideration of the other students that are in class also. So something that I would say I cannot be so rigid in a sense where just say majority of them all cannot cope because of one child screaming or crying or jumping around the class, and it affects all the other students in class. I cannot be still insisting that all the child sit down and listen to me. So this is something that I feel like I definitely did try before doing, which is still trying to execute what I wanted to do and telling them, okay, let's sit down and let's do the activity, knowing all of them are all around. They cannot focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where you have to take into consideration of each student characteristic. So like you mentioned just now, so if one is, when you're doing an activity, you have to think, should I continue or should I not?
Yeah.
When a child is, couldn't pay attention or just couldn't sit still in the class. Okay, so that's where it means by you cannot be rigid and then you cannot insist to push on the class. Okay, all right. So now I get it. So okay, we have to be flexible in terms of this, in terms of the lesson plan. So meaning that, so let's say meaning that your class is like, okay, we are doing arts for 1 hour. So let's say the children unable to finish it. So you allow them to have a break.
Personally, I would say 1 hour is too long for them to sit down and do it.
All right.
What we usually do is we have physical activity in between, or songs and dance and stuff like that, just to help them. That means we split it into two different things.
Okay.
So after break, what we usually do is we'll have songs, we'll dance, and then we will do some physical activity where they climb on top of the stepping stones and stuff like that, just to get them moving before we sit down and do some work. Because sometimes it's easier, what we notice is it's easier for them to regulate themselves better. We have sensory, like if we allow them to play with water beads for 5 minutes, we notice the difference when we don't let them have any sensory activity compared to when we allow them to have that 5 minutes of water beads and then we do the activity. So this kind of things is things that we take into consideration, and I still am trying to learn how to take those type of things into consideration in order for the class to run more smoothly.
So meaning that not only teacher have to be flexible, the lesson plan itself have to be flexible, because you already plan something, but then you cannot carry on. So you have to like slot in different other activity, meaning that the lesson plan has to be like not like flexible in a way that to accommodate to the children's ability.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So wow, okay, this is very interesting. So when you plan a lesson plan, okay, so for those who join us today, lesson plan, correct me if I'm wrong, is it like a timetable or schedule what they're going to do that day, right?
Yeah, it's like a schedule that they're supposed to like
Okay,
do.
so it's like the typical in the school where we see the timetable, 9 o'clock maths, 10 o'clock English, like that, right? Okay, so when you create this lesson plan, you have to take into consideration about the academic level as well as their characteristics. So so your role not only about teaching them mathematics and English, but you also have to consider in general about, can they cope with the subject, or how would they behave, and then also should you continue the class, is one of them disrupting the class. Okay, all right, that's interesting. Because I'm curious when you say rigid, I just want to know like how rigid. So after hearing from your experience, okay, not only you have to be open, but also the lesson plan have to be considerate in a way. Because for me, it's like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to tell the kids. So I never thought of like, okay, I have to consider how each of them are doing it. Okay, so I assume from your experience, you're teaching a group, not one-to-one, or you have mixture of one-to-one student as well as a group student,
There
a
is,
classroom.
I'm currently teaching a group setting, but there are settings where it's just one-to-one too.
Okay. All right. So would it be different in terms of lesson plan for one-to-one and a classroom setting like a group?
When it comes to one-to-one, I would say that it's easier to control, it's easier to execute your lesson plan also because you're only dealing with one child
Mhm.
and your focus can be completely on that child in order to get the child to do work or to understand what you're trying to say, your instructions. It's much more easier, I would say.
Can you share a bit about your experience working with one-to-one?
Yeah. So one-to-one setting, I would say, just say a child is
Sorry, just to
not able.
clarify, one-to-one means one teacher, one student.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah. So when during one-to-one settings, I find it easier in a sense where my focus can be completely on this one child instead of having to know, okay, I need to constantly go and check on these three other students or what am I supposed to do? I have to run back and forth to know how I'm supposed to accommodate everything in order to help all of these kids, not just focus on one child. Just say a child is doing tantrum, I cannot just focus on him. But in one-to-one setting, it's much more easier in the sense where if the child is having struggle, like he's struggling with something, I wouldn't have to go to three other students to check whether they are struggling with it. My focus can be completely on this child to help him with understanding what he's supposed to do better.
Okay. So let's say the child has difficulty doing mathematics, so you can guide them one by one because it's one-to-one.
Yeah.
So this is the meaning whereby it's easier to carry out the lesson plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so let's say uh, you are in you're in more control of the classroom because there's only
Yeah.
one student. Okay, so the lesson plan will be slightly easier to carry out, and also would it be more things to do one-to-one? So
It
you have
really depends on the child also, because doesn't mean one-to-one they suddenly wouldn't have like their bad days or behavior. So we also have to take that into consideration because sometimes it's just not going to be the child's day and we have to accept that instead of just okay, since it's one-to-one, my full attention is going to be on you, so there's more pressure on. So it's also a lot of things that we have to consider.
so it's also depending on the child that they, if you can push more, then you can add more to the lesson plan. Okay. All right. And then that's where you have to take into consideration about how they behave, concentration, okay, the child's characteristic. Okay, and then from your opinion, it will be easier to carry out because you have full control and only one student and you can guide them. Okay. Okay, so how about in group, like in a classroom setting? Definitely, does this lesson plan applicable to all four? Because like just now you said one-to-one, so I mean this lesson plan can apply to this kid. So let's say you're in a group of 4 students. Everyone share the same lesson plan or everyone have different?
It depends. So like currently what we do is one lesson plan is for all four students because they are able to, but at the same time, we have to take into consideration like okay, more time for the student because he needs it or she needs it. So we need to take all of that into consideration when we plan a lesson plan, I would say. We need to take into consideration whether, regardless of whether we give them extra time, are they able to do it? That's one of the things that we have to think about. We have to think about if we give them extra time, will it help them do better? That kind of things. Because if it's not going to benefit one child, then it won't work in a group setting.
That's a lot of work. Okay, that's a lot of work. Okay, so I didn't know that. So one lesson plan, and then you have to break down to 4 different children because they have different abilities. Okay, so but if they will all still share the same, and then you have to consider how much each of the child can. Okay, all right, so wow, okay. I didn't expect that. Thank you for sharing. And then when you say that it's easier in one-to-one, can you share like why is it hard to carry out the lesson plan in group?
Because sometimes one child or two child is just going to feel like they're not, or they're just going to feel down, or they're not able to focus. They don't like what you're teaching, or they don't like the song that you pick. So these are all things that is just going to affect how we carry out the lesson, because some songs might be triggering for a child, some songs might be something they don't like to hear. So how are we supposed to make all of them come together in a group setting and enjoy what has been planned out, instead of, okay, you cannot focus, then you go out, that kind of thing. But it's not so much of that. It's more like we try to make it in a way where we can get the children to participate together in a group setting so that they can all enjoy the activity together, I would say.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So meaning that now, as compared to one-to-one, your focus is on 4 different person.
Yeah.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, so 4 of them will behave differently?
Sorry?
All 4 of them will behave differently. So that's where the challenges come in. You know, like from what you experience, from what you have shared. So, I have this in my mind that, okay, so, when I teach, like when I'm teaching mathematics, like you shared about the song, right? When you play a certain song, 2 of them will be enjoying and the other 2 will not be enjoying. So that's where, you have to carry out the lesson plan, but you also have to manage the class in a way. Okay, so, okay. So that's where, you have to divide your attention, and then at the same time, other than carry out the lesson plan, you also have to focus on the child well-being. So it's like not only education, but also the whole experience of learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll talk about like the role. Other than lesson plan, you also have to manage a lot of different types of, I would say, behavior, because you are dealing with children with special needs. So meaning that they are not like any other child. Like you said, let's just start with one, following instruction. Yeah.
So following instructions, something that I learned throughout my journey until now would be, it also depends on the teacher. Something that I really struggle with is to shorten my instructions when giving the kids. So an example that happened before is that I was doing my practicum 1 and I was supposed to carry out a lesson plan. So my instructions for the activity were supposed to be short, simple, and clear. But what happened was, my goal was to do something, I would say, too ambitious. So I wanted them to take the cut out sponge shape, stamp it on the pane, and then again walk on top the stepping stone, then stamp it on the paper. So there was 4 different things that they were supposed to do. Take the sponge, stamp it on the pane, walk on the stepping stone, and then on the paper. So this was supposed to be guided with Simon Says. But instead of saying Simon Says, I said teacher says. So when I was giving them instructions, they got very confused because I myself got confused. I started saying teacher Elisa says, teacher says. And then halfway through, I realized I don't even understand my own instructions. How are they supposed to understand their instructions? So the first time I carried out my lesson plan for that particular activity, it was chaos. I realized that the kids didn't know where to stand when it's not their turn. The kids didn't know what to do next after they have walked on the stepping stones. They constantly had to wait for teacher to say the word teacher says in order to do the next thing. Where are they supposed to stand? So it generally made me feel like I didn't have control of the class at all. And then I started getting more feedbacks from my in-house supervisor, which helped me a lot. I realized that I can still do the same thing, but the importance of it is to get what I wanted them to do across. So what I can do is shorten the instructions, shorten the things that I want to. That means instead of getting them to do 4 different things, I get them to do 2 first. So these are the type of things that I learned along the way, because I cannot be expecting them to do 4 different things and then asking them to listen to this whole Simon Say thing, because they will get confused. They wouldn't know which one to do first. And then I'm supposed to hear, I'm supposed to be so aware of the word teacher says, but I also have to do the right thing. But if she says STEM, then I don't STEM. She said teacher STEM, so it's very confusing. So along the way, I realized that the importance of giving instructions is also making it clear and as short as you can be, not long-winded, which is something I'm trying. But yeah.
So when you carry out the activity, like in terms of following instruction, you have to keep it short and clear, and also I would say that match to their ability.
Yeah.
So when you carry out the activity, in order for them to follow the instruction, you first have to check if they are able to follow up. Okay.
I would say something that I was constantly told is, if you don't try, you won't. So if we don't try it with them, we will never know if they're able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree, because my experience, I can relate to that, because, you know, well, working with children with special needs, it's kind of challenging, because you can have 2 person with autism, but they will react differently.
Yeah.
That's where it sometimes confuses me too, because let's say this child, I'm teaching addition 1 plus 1. I write horizontally 1 plus 1, then equals to 2. So when the second child come in with the same condition, when I teach, when I show them 1 plus 1 vertically, they don't understand. So when I write horizontally, then only they understand. So I can relate to that, because we can have 2 person with similar conditions, similar disorder, but how they react is really interesting. Okay, and then hearing from you, sharing that, you know, in the classroom is also the same way. You know, when you give instruction, you have to be short and clear. So this is sometimes, you know, we overlook, even including myself. Sometimes it's just like, so and so, please go and get this and this and this and this. So, you know, and then they like sort of like lost, huh? What should I do? You're only able to carry out maybe the first part or the second part of the instruction, and the rest was, I wouldn't say they ignore. I think they just cannot pick up at the moment. Okay, so basically that's following instruction. Any other, you know, difficulties when you carry out your role, you know, or challenges that you can
yes.
share with us?
So the difference between one of the experience that I had is that during the beginning time of when I used to go into the classes for replacement class, or the early part where I started becoming their class teacher, I realized that one of the challenge was having myself adjust to giving instructions instead of playing with them, but also having them adjust to me. That means they have to start taking instructions from the person they used to play with. So that was one of the struggles that I have, because I remember initial stage, they started tricking me and saying things like, trying to get things in a way where, okay, just say they wanted this particular activity to be included in the lesson. If I was replacing the class or during the time where I just started with them as a class teacher, basically what happened was they would tell me that, oh, this teacher actually did this, and this is supposed to be in. And I used to, initially as a training teacher, I used to really get confused whether I was doing it wrongly, because I didn't know, okay, this is supposed to be in. Is this supposed to be in their circle time? Is this supposed to be in their lesson? So I used to always get confused. So one of the challenges that I had was making sure that I am in control of the class. So that is something that I realized I need to do, because when it's a class that I'm handling, regardless whether it's a replacement class, regardless whether I'm the main teacher, the class has to run the way that I had planned it, in a sense where if today we didn't do the song that another teacher did, that is not what I planned. So I needed to start understanding the concept of, okay, today is my class, I had planned this and this is how we're going to run it. And be not, okay, be firm in a sense when you tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do. You can do that with the other teacher in class. So that's something that I really didn't know how to do until now. I'm getting better at it, I would say.
So that has to do with boundary as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's mean when you work in the classroom setting, when you in the process of building rapport with the students, you have to have a very clear boundary,
Yes.
or else children being children, they are quite cheeky in a way.
Yeah.
They will try all sort of way to get what they want. We have a question from someone, parents, I think. Any tips on activities parents can do with kids at home? I assume it can be teaching
Any
related, academics, maybe.
Academic related.
Mhm.
So the other day, there's hopscotch activity that one of the teachers actually tried. There's also bowling activity that I tried. So what you can do is you can get them to. What I did with them was basically I lined up bowling pins, and academic wise, you can just put either words or numbers and see how many they can get down. And when you pick them up, you can actually get them to read the words together with you. Or if it's numbers, you can get them to plus two pins together and see how much it adds up to. So it's all just depends on creativity, what
Yeah.
you want to do with that activity.
Yeah. I seen you and another teacher did that in Mind Story, where when you found out that the children is a visual learner, and then I see that how you and the other teachers modified the mathematics into something very visual, and then another kids who like to draw, and then you change the story. Three Little Pig, if I'm not mistaken, the child is into Three Little Pigs, and then slowly you change the storyline, and then the child able to adapt to in terms of writing more words, and then explaining more about not only Three Little Pigs but other story as well. Okay, so any other activities that when we want to start with a child, in a way that we build from their interest, am I correct?
Yeah. So like
Okay,
you
so-
said just now, Teacher Charlie, you said that if they like something like the Three Little Pigs, then you can start from there. You know what they like. So from there you can expand it into different activities.
Okay, you start with what they like, then you can branch into like mathematics, and then reading, things like that, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so this is all right. Okay, I get it. So this is where we can consider part of the lesson plan, where we have to be creative in a way. Okay, all right, that's very interesting. And then when we do activity, we also have to take into consideration, like what teacher Elisa suggested, try to keep the instruction short and clear so the child can follow. Okay. So any other thing other than like, following instruction, being flexible with the lesson plan, and then also be firm with your student, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I do relate to this situation. Sometimes, the kids somewhere somehow they find a way to get, so they have this, they like crocodile tears, they start tearing like, I want this, I want that. So this is where we have to, like, as you shared just now, we have to stand our ground. Like, okay, you have to complete this, then only you can do. So we try to break the cycle in a way that they can comply, and then also learn. If I'm not mistaken, you can learn, correct me if I'm wrong, you can learn from working with other children and teachers as well.
Yes. So like just now you said crocodile tears. I think something that was also like one of the things that I learned throughout my journey is that if a child is unable to do it and they want to get, just say, a toy car, and we know they want to get a toy car, and they are not motivated to do mathematics, just say there's 5 questions. Even if they do 2 or 1, I feel like slowly I started understanding that it's not the amount that they do, it's the instructions that they're able to follow. If I finish at least 2 questions out of the 5, I still get the toy car. But I don't get the toy car just because I cried. That kind of thing.
Okay, okay. So they have to, in a way that they have to work to earn. They have to do something in order for them to get what they want. Okay. So for example, if you apply it into the classroom setting, lesson plan, learn addition, mathematics. So they have to be able to learn this, then only they get reward
Yeah.
at the end. Okay, okay. So the rewarding or keep the child motivated is all part of the lesson plan?
I think the rewarding thing is something that we use to motivate the child for now. So it's also like what you say, earn what they want instead of just I scream, I cry, I get what I want. It's more like, okay, in order to get what I want, I still need to earn it. I finish my work and I get it. It's like a positive way to reinforce them to finish their work.
Okay. Any other difficulties or challenges when you work with children with special needs?
Challenges, I would say something that I struggled with was confidence because I never knew when to intervene.
That is a
I
good
never
one.
really knew when to intervene because I always felt like, okay, just say now a child is supposed to come to me and they're supposed to ask me for a sharpener. And the child is supposed to say, Teacher Lisa, can I please have a sharpener? Which they are able to. But they come to me and they say, Teacher Lisa, give me the sharpener. So I used to struggle with the should I go and tell them to try again, or should I give them the sharpener, or should I ignore them? Because there's this thing where we do, if they're not showing appropriate behavior, we ignore them for them to realize, okay, I come back, I try again, I get what I want. But that's something that I used to juggle with because I still struggle a little bit in the sense where I don't know when is the right time to intervene. So now what I started practicing is because I was always told by my colleagues, the support that I have from my colleagues and my boss is really amazing because they always give me feedbacks for me to learn and to grow. So they started telling me like, do what you think is right. If you feel like that is the right time for you to intervene so that the child will learn something, then do. But if it's not going to benefit the child, then you find no purpose in it. But I always felt like, okay, what is other educators around me going to find? Like, are they going to think there's no need to intervene? Or am I supposed to ignore? I always feared that, I would say.
Okay, confidence. Any other challenges?
I would say one of the challenges is like just now back to like the following instructions, but I would say many times that I've come across instances where my students are doing things that they're not supposed to do. So just say if I give them instructions to, okay, everybody have to remain seated and wait for teacher Alisa to come back. And I come back to the class and I see them taking the chair and pushing on each other and all of this kind of funny things that they will do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
how do something that I need, like I used to struggle with was to come into the class and how am I supposed to address this problem? Because when it comes to my course, what I learned was positive way to give, like positive way to teach the child instead of saying, no, stop doing that, or you're not supposed to do that, that kind of thing. How am I supposed to?
Yeah, this is a good one. This is really because, like positive ways. Yeah.
How am I supposed to phrase it in a more positive way for them to realize it themselves?
Okay.
Because something that I learned from one of my lecturers is there's no point in making them say sorry if they don't know what they're sorry for.
True. Because if they don't recognize their mistake, this is something that sometimes, I personally, when I work with parents also, and with children with special needs, sometimes the child is unable or not aware what they do is wrong because they have a unique way to get what they want without knowing that way is not the appropriate way. For example, the one that we've seen quite a lot, cry. Start kicking things, start pushing, start throwing things to get what they want. Some parents who are able to tolerate or have high tolerance, they were like, okay, I can tolerate with this. So yeah, but it's very different when it comes to group setting and also in the classroom setting because in a school or classroom setting, there's a certain way for a child to behave. But like you said, we have to change. I mean, the one that you said about how to teach in positive way so that the child can reflect. This is something that even I myself sometimes overlook because I'm so used to saying no. No, you cannot have this. No, you cannot have that. Stop crying or stop making noise. So sometimes, yeah, that's where that's very interesting because it's not something that I learn. So, like after hearing your experience and then your role as a teacher, what you a special education teacher, what you do, and what are some interesting ways of dealing with the children, in terms of one-to-one and also group. Okay, it's just curious. How do you stay motivated and then continue teaching? Because from what I hear, it's like, wow, like it's quite tough, to be honest, from you sharing that, we talk about lesson plan, we talk about following instruction, we talk about uh, other things, building rapport, we have to be firm. And then in a way that also, wow, like for me, it's like, I have to put all this at once and then have to manage the student, have to manage the classroom, have to manage the lesson plan. So I'm just curious, how do you stay motivated and continue?
I would say that something that I find rewarding would be when a child is able to do something that they have been working on for some time. It can be the simplest thing, whether it's saying please without being asked or saying good morning without being asked. Because usually, like, when a child comes to school, they're supposed to be like, oh, good morning, teacher, blah, blah, blah. But they usually don't until the teacher approaches them first, which is normal. But when they are able to just come and do things without being prompted or without being reminded, like, okay, go and do this. But they are able to come up and be like, oh, teacher Alisa, teacher Shali, can I have sharpener? Can I have this? Without being like told to ask properly or ask nicely. I feel like it's very rewarding in a sense when they have learned slowly with time that means it's not so much of, how like there's a lot of things that people say like, oh, they cannot learn how to do it. But personally, I realize with time, they are able to just do the things that sometimes surprise us, surprise adults themselves, because all the small, small things that I find rewarding would be when a child is struggling so much with reading, just say, and suddenly they come to school and you're doing an activity, you ask them to read, and they're able to read a whole sentence, even though it's just one sentence out of 5. I feel like it's rewarding because for them to read one word used to be so hard. So it's all the small, small achievement that motivates me to keep going because it's very meaningful to see them grow in that way. Instead of just saying, okay, you did 1, but you didn't do 5 more, and it's not good enough. So I feel like it's very, very rewarding, even though it's the smallest thing. So that's what keeps me going. It brings me a lot of joy to know that with time they actually can do it. And it's not so much of the things that they cannot do, but the things that they slowly learn how to do. Yeah.
All right. So we're already almost at the end of this Ask Charlie Anything. So any take-home messages for those that will join us today?
I would say if anyone is interested to join this field, I would really encourage you to do so because the reward of the feeling of seeing a child do something that you've been teaching them for a very long period of time is something very rewarding that I would say money cannot buy. And it's just a very nice feeling to feel. And if people are interested to know more about this field, I would say there's a lot of workshop that Mindsary has provided to raise awareness about what special needs is about. So find the importance of knowing more about special needs. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, just to summarize before we end this talk. So correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so today we learned about, thank you for sharing
your experience as a special education teacher, because it's really important that we are able to see and learn about how special education teacher teach. Okay, like for example, you share about the role. Number one is lesson plan. We have to be flexible. Also, the teacher itself have to be flexible. And then from your sharing, I learned that actually different children have different learning style. We have to take into consideration when you create the lesson plan. Okay, and then also the child has different ability. So let's say you want to teach addition in mathematics or pronunciation in English, you also have to consider different child, because specifically we are talking about children with special needs. Yeah, so definitely they all have their strength and weaknesses. So, and also you also mentioned that one of the lesson plan goal is to improve the learning experience from the children. Like I do agree with this, because we can see a lot of children with special needs. They have quite a low motivation in learning. So when you talk about academic, it's not, it's not easy. It requires a lot of abilities like concentration, writing skill, reading skill, language skill. All these come into play when we talk about learning. So like you should mention just now, if the kids are very strong in visual, the activity will cater for the kids will be mostly visual. And then if it's like auditory, then mostly will be on auditory. So this is all part of the lesson plan. So thank you for sharing, because for me, I thought lesson plan is just timetable, 9 o'clock mathematics, 10 o'clock English, and that's it. Okay, but I didn't know that you have to take into consideration about the child, and also what they can do, what they cannot do. Okay, and also their learning style. And then secondly, you talk about following instruction. Instruction that given to the children has to be short and clear, so they are able to follow. Okay, and also you talk about be firm. Okay, when you deal with children with special needs, you have to be firm, and then in a way, you are teaching the children to behave accordingly to a classroom. For example, saying please. It's not like you want something, that you start crying, you start throwing things, okay, to get what they want. So they have to, like, it's part of the learning process for them. And then also you provide reward for them. If they do good, you give reward, they get to do what they want. Yeah. So from what I hear is very much different from the traditional way of teaching. So from your sharing, in a way that it gives me a view that, okay, wow, this is interesting. It's not like how I experience classroom myself, because I can, when I think back, do my teacher ask me, what's to talk nicely in the classroom? I mean, like, so yeah, it's really pleasant to hear from your experience, in a way that you try to accommodate, you try to fit in the children into the learning process. Like learning is learning, and then you are able to fit the children into the academic learning process. And then also you shared about your challenges. Okay, like you have to go around, manage the children. Okay, it has a lot to do with the teacher's confidence. Okay,
Yeah.
and then also providing positive learning outcome. Okay, this is also something that it's very important. Okay, so if you have any question for those who join us today that I might missed out, you can continue to post in the comment, and then we can get back to you. So in general, I hope everyone get to learn, and also somewhat can see the point of view of a special education teacher, and then you can see how is it different. So like what I shared just now is basically quite different from a non
can I say no? Non-special education teacher. So thank you, Teacher Alisa, for sharing your experience with us, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank
So
you.
do check out our Facebook page to see the upcoming event. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.